news stories. Welcome to the François Picard debate. We'll be talking about Mali and the presidential vote there. Many people are hoping, praying indeed, that this will be the start of a new era, a time of peace and prosperity. In the past 18 months, Mali has seen a military coup, an Islamist incursion take over the north of the country, and then a military intervention led by France. The French have hailed this election as a success, even before the result is confirmed. Our debate then is Mali, which way after the election? We have guests here in the studio and joining us by satellite. Let me bring in our guests then and introduce them to you very briefly. Abdoulaye Maiga is a Malian engineering student and a native of the city of Gao. Thank you, sir, for joining us. On the other side of our studio, we have Dr. Cristina Barrios, who's senior analyst at the European Union Institute for Security Studies. Security, of course, a main issue in and around this election. We're looking forward to hearing your views, Cristina. Thank you for joining us too. Back on the other side of the studio, Eduardo Quay, François Picard's international affairs editor. Eduardo has recently returned from an extensive mission to Mali, so your insight will be, I know, priceless as ever. Eduardo Quay, a frequent visitor to our studios. And on the other side, back to the left side of the studio, Hawa Dem, who is president, or rather the young Malian Council civil society leader. I got it right eventually. Civil society leader. Howard, thank you very much for joining us. We're looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. Joining us by Skype from Leeds in the United Kingdom, we have a representative of the Tuareg tribesmen of the MNLA. He is Akli Shgar. Akli, thank you for joining us here on France 24. I'll bring you in a moment's time. So let's kick off here in the studio then. Mali, which way after the election? Abdoulaye from Gao, did you manage to vote?
Sadly, I did not manage to vote. But it's because before I used to live in a different city, and so I was registered in that city. And the time to process the whole election card and everything, I wasn't able to vote in Paris.
Okay, so there's one vote that they didn't get.
Yeah.
How did you get on? Did you vote?
No.
Okay, that's two votes that didn't happen. Okay, why didn't you vote?
I didn't vote because I haven't been recent, before, yeah, and also I didn't get the card I need to vote. So
okay, well let's complete the trio and let's bring in Akli, who is awaiting us in Leeds. Akli Shgar, did you vote in this election?
Sorry, I think you misunderstood I don't represent the MNLA, and I'm not from that part. I represent an international Tuareg movement, which is spreading all over the North African. So that's just to correct the nickname and everything.
Well,
else.
We'll make sure that is corrected, and thank you for putting it out.
And even if I am a Malian or from Azawad, I'm not going to vote for this government, which is still the blood stains on their hands.
Okay, so this election, as far as you're concerned, is a non-event and shouldn't have been held.
Yes, absolutely. It's ridiculous, and I think it's as many experts in the world, international world, and what has been going now. I think it's not a fair election because even the people in the north, 70% of the people population, exactly the Arabs and the Tuaregs, have been displaced because they have been massacred and killed by the Malian army, and this is happening since 1963 from the first revolution in the north of Azawad. And I don't think this is taking us anywhere, because what's happening in the north now, we have heard today, and in Kidal, just one person actually managed to go there, and we have seen a lot of protests and demonstrations in the refugee campus and in Kidal, and also people in Gao and Timbuktu, those who are going to vote, actually people who actually were pushed by the Malian army and the other partners of the international community who were pushing Mali to this ridiculous and election, because what's happening right now, it's not part of the what is happening in the north. It's not a resolution of the main problem which is happening for almost 50 years now.
Akli, thank you very much. You'll be back in a moment. Thank you for bringing that out. So clear there, Cristina, from Akli Shgar, that there is an issue here straight away, identified, and I think very much on the table, that the Tuaregs have one feeling, and whatever happens in Bamako will be probably different from what they are feeling. And this, in many ways, is at the heart of the kind of problems that will not be solved by any kind of election.
Indeed, I agree. I agree with that. And what I think is that this points exactly at reconciliation as one of the key issues. I don't know if my colleagues here will agree with me, but I think this will be something that maybe the elections can just kick off. But the reconciliation and the future of a Malian state where these populations are represented and feel at home and have power again, I think is clearly there on the table.
Can I bring back in Abdoulaye and Hawa? When you heard what Akli had to say, representing the Tuaregs, how did that make you feel, both of you? Do you hear what he's saying? Do you understand what he's saying? Do you feel sympathy with what he's saying? Hawa?
Yeah, I really understand what he's saying, because what he just described is the situation of most of the people in Mali. By introducing, we said that we didn't vote. We are like these people in north of Mali who are Malian also. So what he was describing now is the situation of many people in Mali. Now the question is, are we going to to stop and say, okay, we don't recognize this election and we stay there in the chaos, or are we going to move forward and try after this election to solve our problems? And yeah, we have a very huge work to do between us, Malian, north, south, and elsewhere, and us also out of the country. So no, I think that this situation is the case of most of Malian people.
So how you feel disenfranchised? Is that the same for you?
Well, I feel that the election might not have a perfect timing, and it might have been a little bit fast, and it's not very well organized. But I think that we have to set a basis for a democratic state. In other words, in order for us to collaborate, we have to be able to get the voices of the different people. And this is the only way to start collaborating with the Malians from the south and the north. And so, as he says, he believes that there should not be an election, but what other solution is there to having an election in order to communicate?
Abdoulaye, one of the issues, and I'll bring Eduardo Quain to talk about this now, is that the revival of the economy in Mali is linked to a $43 billion, and Eduardo will correct me if I'm wrong, Western donation package.
3 billion.
Which is linked to
3 billion euros.
Which is linked to the organisation of elections, and obviously this is part and parcel of unlocking that cash.
Absolutely, but I would like to make a comment about what was said. This is definitely the unity of Mali, and making peace with all of the different ethnic groups in Mali is probably the biggest challenge that a new government will face when it finally gets elected. However, it would be impossible for a government that is not, as is the case now, that came to power through a coup, to have the legitimacy and to be recognized internationally so that it can then proceed to negotiations with the Tuareg and other groups, but particularly the Tuareg, to see if they can come to some sort of an agreement. This, as was mentioned, this has been a battle that has been going on for many, many, many years. The many members of the Tuareg want an independent state that would not only be in northern Mali, but also parts of Niger, for example. And others want just increased autonomy from the central government in Bamako. And this is the key issue that is going to have to be eventually settled if Mali is going to remain, is going to be a viable state. With regards to the economy, many Western countries, including the United States, for example, law prohibits sending aid to governments that come to power in a coup. The very reason why Washington has refused to call what happened in Egypt a coup. But there is a lot of money, and I think the Western donors are certainly willing and even eager to provide a tremendous amount of money to rebuild the Malian economy, which is in just horrific shape. Mali, of course, one of the poorest countries in the world, but after the events of the last 15 months, it really needs help very badly. But that cannot be done until a legitimate, democratically elected government is in place. And I think that what happened today is a very important first step.
Let me put that point to Akli Shka, who is representative of the international Tuareg movement. Akli joining us from the north of England, the city of Leeds, where he is based. Akli, I'm sure you've heard what Eduardo had to say here and what the other guests were saying previously. This issue of rebuilding Mali and accessing international funds because of the election. Does that in any way make you feel that the election really needed to happen and was a good thing, in spite of what you believe?
Absolutely. I think what you've said, the previous guest, is absolutely, I agree totally with him. But we have to say that, and the main problem, the main issue in the north of Mali is not elections, because the Tuareg since 1963 have been fighting for their freedom, and it has been hijacked this in 2009, 2012 by many groups, intelligence services you call now Islamists or whatever, hijacked by these Islamists, because the many countries, not only Mali, but Algeria and Libya and other countries where a big population of Tuareg scattering in the vast Sahara, they don't want the Tuareg in anywhere in this world, in their Sahara, to have any kind of independence. So these basically groups we have been hijacked this revolution, the Tuareg movement, the MNLA, are actually the intelligence services. Because the evidence we have is, where are they? Where are all these groups which have been promising what they call the infidels, the Westerners, if they enter the north of Mali, they are going to make massacres and kill them all over. But they have disappeared in a few weeks, and now those who are been leading these groups now, whether they are seek asylum in Algeria or Mauritania, or even some of them are still French and other powers, they know where they are in the north of Mali, because they are working with Mali. Basically, this is the truth. And this election is actually, it's not concerned. It's not about the north. It's something to do with Bamako. It's nothing to do with Timbuktu or Azawad, and it's not going to solve the problem. The main problem is the Tuareg problem. We have to learn and have to listen. But unfortunately, France and other partners, the international community, actually is pushing Mali, although knows this is just a political game, which France now wants to say, oh, I've achieved something, I am leading this operation. It wants to show the success, although knows it's all played out against the Tuaregs and to hijack the main problem of the Tuareg people. We have to know that this election is nothing to do with the Tuareg people, or the problem is in Mali. And it's
Actually, bear with us, please. Actually, I'll stop you there for a second, if you don't mind, and bring in Christina from the European Union Security Studies angle, and ask about this issue of security, Christina, because clearly the Tuaregs unhappy with what's happening. So one asks, sitting on the outside now, what is the price of security and any kind of peace going forward if the Tuaregs feel disenfranchised, cut off, and not part of this whole process?
Well, what I would add to the comments we've been hearing is that the legitimacy will really come from the delivery that the future president will be able to put forward for the Malian population, and this includes the Tuareg. It is true that because it is a minority and there are other minorities, there is a risk in democracy, which is usually making the game for the majority, that these minorities' considerations are a bit disregarded. But I think that the awareness of the security threats are such that the winner of the elections will realize that this is an issue that needs to be tackled. At the same time, the security situation is very complex, it's very evolving, and as we heard also from our previous speaker, we really don't know how these allegiances are shifting and who is able to be a spoiler. What we know is that there are still groups able to be spoilers, and this is, I think, a concern for all Malians.
So you're saying possibly the Tuareg could be part of that, and possibly the Islamists clearly are not out of the picture. They're still around in some way, shape or form, waiting to come in. Eduardo, the issue regarding France, of course, and its involvement is that any meaningful pullout, of course, is governed towards or governed by peace on the ground.
Absolutely. Now, France wants to leave as soon as possible. The government has made that clear, mainly for budgetary reasons, but also because, as President Hollande said not long ago, he knows that Malians are very pro-French at the moment in their great majority. I found that when I was there, but things can turn very quickly. The question is, will the UN peacekeeping troops be able to, in effect, guarantee the sovereignty of the Malian state? that remains to be seen. I'm not very optimistic about UN peacekeeping troops. I think they haven't done a great job in many other places in Africa. Just to go back to the Tuareg issue for just one moment, because it really is at the center of things here. I think Malians, I have the sense that Malians understand that this, which has not been the case in the past, that this problem really must be resolved. That I have a feeling that there is a willingness to grant the Tuaregs a certain amount of autonomy. Whether this will be enough or not, that remains to be seen. But I do not believe that this problem can continue to be ignored as it has been for the last so many years.
As you were saying that, I was looking at how and Abdoulaye for reaction there. I mean, do you see, Abdoulaye, a kind of, it almost sounds like what Eduardo is talking about is a kind of a separation of both sides of Mali?
I think one of the mistakes that we're all committing is separating Tuaregs and Malians. Yeah. But I think they are part of the country and they are Malians too. Like, I'm from Gao. Both my parents are from Timbuktu. And it's a region that's known to be populated by many Tuaregs, and they live peacefully together. And so I think one of the issues is how to get them to cooperate on a bigger scale. Because today, Malians of the South are not forcefully aware of the situation. It's a very big country. You have at least 1,500 kilometers from Bamako, and I believe like 95% of the population from the South has never been in the North. And so I can understand that they are not confronted with this problem in their everyday life. And so the point of, one of the issues that the new government has to handle is how to make these two populations that seem different but are within the same country, how to make them collaborate, and how to get this minority, which is feeling that they're being oppressed by the government, how to get them to be integrated into the government and have a voice and to be understood by the Malians from the South.
And they have been ignored by the government for decades. That is also the case. They have been totally ignored by the government in the North.
And sadly, what he said was, the democracy is not perfect. And as we all know it, within democracy, the majorities are the ones that are electing. And so if the minorities are not being able to be heard by the democratic vote, that won't solve the issue if we don't have a majority conscience of the minorities.
How do you see that the Tuaregs are very much part of Mali and not something that should be separate?
Yeah, definitely, because when I heard this person talking
about
Tuareg, I have the feeling that there was Mali and there was a part of Mali where you have only Tuaregs and that's all. No, I'm really sorry. In Mali, you have Tuareg between among the Tuaregs. You have many Tuaregs who are feeling definitely feel Malian, and they are part of Mali. They love Mali, and I have hope. I think that after this election, we are going to work together, and we will try to consolidate our country, because the minority, unfortunately, is doing what he wants to do to separate the country. But we are here. We are going to stand up and do what we have to do in order to maintain this country.
I need to pause you there. I'm sorry, time's against us. We need to take a short break. More, of course, from our guests on the issue of Mali and which way after the election. After a very short break, join us for the news then and the second part of this debate.